One of the most vivid memories of my entire life is from childhood. Every year, my family went to a Christmas party hosted by friends of ours. It was in the same neighborhood, but it was just far enough away that we huddled into the family van to get there. And it actually isn't the memory of the party itself, although I have some fond memories of the parties. It was actually the process of leaving, because I remember the smell in the air, the crisp, thin, cold winter's air, the smell of wood-burning fireplaces, the smell of those fireplaces of neighbors in the area lingers in my nose, so much so that to this day, whenever I smell a fireplace burning outside in the cold of winter, I am immediately transported back to that time in childhood when I experienced things as an innocent boy, where Christmas was a time of calm and security and love. Perhaps you have some memories of Christmases past. A parishioner told me recently, leading up to tonight's service, that they always get a little weepy during the Christmas Eve service. Somehow singing Silent Night together always brings up emotions. And I said, embrace those emotions. So often I find that the Spirit speaks to us through them. Some 41 years later, I have experienced with great humility the knowledge that not all Christmases past are merry and bright and calm, like I was privileged to experience as a child. And in fact, when we read the Bible, we find that the first Christmas was really nothing like those Christmases that I recall with joy of my childhood. The first Christmas was anything but calm, was rather chaotic. The great preacher of the 20th century, Fred Craddock, said of the gospel version from Luke that we've read tonight in particular, makes no attempt at dressing up or adding some decoration that would take the focus away from the lowly, the poor, and the marginal of this world. For Luke's gospel, more than all the other three, lifts up the concern for economic justice in first century Palestine. Episcopal Bishop Rob Wright of the Diocese of Atlanta, in his message last year at Christmas, preached that above all else, Jesus' birth was an inconvenience. It was an inconvenience to those who supported the status quo, because Jesus didn't come to uphold it, but rather to shake it up, to trouble it, to challenge it. It was an inconvenience to Mary and Joseph, by order of Caesar, to travel an entire weeks-long journey to Bethlehem so that they could be counted for the purposes of being taxed. Jesus didn't go first to the temple where the religious authorities were. He was an inconvenience to those who considered themselves religious of his time. The great news of his birth was announced first, out in the field, to the poor shepherds who, in the economic system of that time, would have been all but destitute. The very first worship service on Christmas Eve was between some poor shepherds and some angelic voices leading the hymns from heaven. And the angels told the shepherds to look for a sign that really underscores the humility of the story. That you will know that what we are telling you is true because you'll find the child that's been born lying in the trough of an animal. It seems the Holy Family didn't enjoy a social status that put them anywhere but the leftover space of where the animals resided in the home where they stayed. It was an inconvenient birth to those who were comfortable with the way things were. It was the model of humility. I've not had the privilege yet myself of visiting the Holy Land, of going to the space where Jesus walked this earth, but I've read with great interest about those who've had the privilege of taking pilgrimage and visiting the holy sites. I reread recently Father Jim Martin, Jesuit priest and author, his memoir of his pilgrimage to the Holy Land, and there's a whole chapter about Bethlehem. And he describes in vivid detail his visit to the Church of the Nativity. Tradition holds that Jesus was born in a cave, and in the 4th century they built a church over top of it. What really grabbed my attention this past week is the door that Father Martin described. To get inside the Church of the Nativity, you have to pass through what they call the door of humility. It literally is no more than 3 feet high. To get inside, you physically have to lower yourself, to stoop, to bow, or to kneel. To get proximate to the place where Christ was born, you have to lower yourself to enter in such a sacred space. Father Martin writes about a sign that he noticed before entering. It's right outside the door, and it reads, "We hope that if you enter here as a tourist, you would leave as a pilgrim. And if you enter here as a pilgrim, that you would leave a holier one." I can think of no better antidote to the challenging times that we find ourselves in this Christmas, that we found ourselves in last Christmas, than lowering ourselves, being humble, modeling our lives, our actions, our decisions off of the one who was the model for humility. The Word made flesh, God incarnate, chose to come among us in the form of a vulnerable, lowly, humble child. This is a challenging time. I quite frankly wasn't sure if we would be here, some of us, in person tonight. In one of several messages that our own bishop, Marianne Buddy, sent us this week in encouragement of how to safely prepare for Christmas Eve in light of the variant, she sent a message, then the title of it caught my attention. It's from my favorite Christmas song, so beautifully sung by Gail and Bill during the prelude, "O Holy Night." The line that she titled her message to us was, "A weary world rejoices." For really, what are we if we are not a weary world, and yet rejoicing? Rejoicing that the Christ child comes yet again into our lives. And so, if you have those fond memories of Christmases past, claim them. If you would allow yourselves to let this liturgy wash over you, to sing the carols out loud, to pray like you've never prayed before tonight, to come and be fed at this table, the bread of life. Go there because Christ meets us. And if you come here as a tourist, as in someone twisted your arm and church wasn't really your thing, but you're here, or you're watching online, it's harder for me to imagine a family member being twisted into watching a service online, but I've heard that it happens. Know that I hope you leave as a pilgrim. And if you've come here as a pilgrim, we hope you leave as a holier one. This Christmas, and in the days and weeks and months and even next Christmas, we have a decision to make over and over again. We can respond to the world like the innkeeper. No room here. Or perhaps we can respond like Joseph. I don't understand, God. I had other plans, God. But I'm going to trust you, God. Or perhaps we respond like Mary, who said, "Let it be upon me according to your word." A weary world rejoices, and we're asked to fall on our knees and hear the angel voices. O night divine, O holy night, when Christ was born. Merry Christmas. Amen.